Yes, we are live. We are here. Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is a beautiful August 5th here in Nashville, Tennessee. I don't know what it's like where you are, but it almost feels like fall.
Oh, I don't know about that, but it definitely doesn't feel like the devil's armpit.
Well, I live a little north of you, and I'm just telling you, it is really,
It was a very
really
pleasant
nice.
morning on the porch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really, really nice. We've had some good long ball playing, so that's been fun with the dog. So what I'm going to do real quick, because I always like to make sure everybody sees this great little stinger from Jonathan. We're going to play that, give people time to come on board, and we'll be right back. And Linda Roydhouse is on it. She has given us a thumbs up, commented in the comments. Linda, thank you very much. We're glad you're here today. We think today is going to be fun. It's really all about how to tell if your AdWords are really working. And here's the thing: this is kind of a teaser. We're going to get into a few things here, but if you are coming to the CSI homecoming event, uh, Christian Rodriguez and I are going to go really deep with this. So if that's something that you're really interested in, then I would say get there, get there, get there. It's August the 18th through the 20th, and we're going to have some fun too. So let's dive right in. You ready, Carter?
Let's do it.
Okay. Are you burning through money with your PPC ads? Boy, howdy. I'm going to start this with a story. A lot of people don't know this, but the very first chimney sweep we ever worked with, I should say Chimney Services company now, um, is Ashbusters, which is owned by Mark Stoner. We happen to be in a BNI group. When I looked at his website, I kind of laughed when I went through his AdWords. And so I got in touch with him and I said, "Hey, man, who does your AdWords?" And he goes, "Oh, I do it. I do my AdWords." I said, "Is there a reason why you're doing your own AdWords?" He said, "Yeah, I want to save money." I said, "Do you have any idea how much money you have actually spent on the word chimney in the last year?" And he goes, "What do you mean? You can tell that?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you can tell that in here." He goes, "No, how much?" $42,000. He's like,
Whew.
"What?" I said, "Yeah, on just the word chimney, because you're pulling up and putting ads on like the Chimney Sweepers, which was a quartet out in California at the time. I mean, anything that had chimney swifts, chimney this, chimney that, his ads were popping up. And he was doing it all over the US, which was another thing that he didn't realize. He thought he had gated it. And so, my point is sometimes we think we're saving money by doing it ourselves. But if you really don't know AdWords and don't know the intricacies of how to do it, my guess is you're not saving any money. You're probably burning through a bunch. So, what's the other thing? Is the company that you're working with? That's another deal. Are they doing a great job or are they just showing you the best stats? This is a big thing for me because I get really, really irritated when people say, "Yep, can you please audit our AdWords?" And I go through and I audit the AdWords and I see that there's something that's an event, or you do something that's supposed to be meaningful to the company. All right. So somebody just coming to your website to me is not meaningful. If they come to your website, that's great. But what's really meaningful is if they call you, or they call from the ad, or they schedule an event, they schedule an appointment with you, at least get you on the phone, something like that. To me, that is really meaningful, which that means that is a lead. All right. Just getting somebody to your website and eyes on your website, that's a great branding play, and it's great, to do that. But there's a lot of other ways you could do that than, on an AdWords, which is expensive. So my point here is make sure that you understand the stats that you're being shown, that they're meaningful stats to your business. It's really, really important, because if they're not, if all they are is, oh, they went to your homepage, or, oh, they did this thing over here, but that cannot lead to a real meaningful job. I mean, let's face it, you do AdWords not so that we can all make money, that the people that do AdWords for you, you do AdWords because you want business, period. So if they're not bringing in business, then yeah, it's not the meaningful things you want them to do. Hopefully that makes sense.
Real quick, just want to recognize Lee Roth. Hey, man, glad you're with us. Lou Curley as well. Lou said, sometimes people think they're saving money by doing the chimney work themselves. So yeah, that's it's the same thing, right? You understand it from that perspective of what you do and the value of what you do, and how it prevents people from, endangering their lives or spending a lot more money than they really need to by having an expert do it.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about how PPC works, because I've had people tell me, Taylor, I don't care what it costs. Just put whatever bid we need to put on there to get to the top. I just don't care. If it's $50 a click, put $50 a click. And I have to tell them that sometimes $50 a click may not get you there, because it's not a true auction in the sense that whoever pays the most money wins. And that's one of those things that people don't quite understand. That if you do everything on AdWords the way you should and really optimize them the way you should, a lot of times those people that are in that number 1 and 2 spot are paying less money than even people who are advertising on the second page. And when you tell people that, they're like horrified. But what a lot of people do is they don't pay attention to the landing page, and there's something called quality score. And so let me explain this really quick. Quality score is really easy, okay? If you think of it in terms of this. If you saw an ad, and the ad that you saw was about online marketing, we'll just pick that. And I took you to a page that talked about billboards. That is a bad quality score, because my ad talked about online marketing, and you go to an ad, and now I'm trying to sell you billboards in your neighborhood. Those two things are not the same. But if I was talking about online marketing and I took you to a page, and that page talked about all those great things on online marketing, from websites, SEO, Facebook, social ads, the whole 9 yards that you can do online, that makes sense. So then your quality score is better. So you can pay all kinds of money, great. But if you're sending people to a page that doesn't talk about what the ad specifically talks about, then your quality score suffers. So Google wants the best experience for whoever uses any of their services. So they want to make sure that whatever that ad is about, that's also what that page is about.
So in that sense, then the quality score factors into how much you're going to end up paying. The more relevant and the better your quality score, the less you'll pay for an ad that may rank higher than someone else who's paying more.
Oh, well, Terry's having problems logging in. I'm sorry about that, Terry. Hope you can get in there here pretty quick. Yeah, and the other thing that is really interesting about pay-per-click, there's all these things around it that people will tell you. I've heard companies say this before. You don't need landing pages. You don't need to worry about sending them. Just sending them to your homepage. That's all you need to do. That's all you need to worry about. We'll take care of everything. If you work with somebody and that's what they're telling you, you need to run, because that is not how you need to do. Just don't do your AdWords that way. Send them all to your service page, and they can figure it out from there. So what happens a lot of times is, and not everybody's like this, but a lot of websites are set up and they've got one service page, and then all the way down their service page, they have sweeping, inspections, repairs. They don't have them broken out to the individual pages. And so these companies just, are doing something for liners, but they're sending it to the general service page. And so people got to scroll through down there and figure out exactly where it is and see if what they're looking for is on there. So those are the things that you have to look for. The myth is you just, send it to the service page. They'll figure it out. You don't have to be, specific. And again, if you go back to the quality score, you got to be specific. It's really important. The other thing, it's all about traffic, which I kind of touched on before. One of the things that's great about both PPC and Facebook ads, both, and organic Facebook for that matter, it brings in traffic to your website. And the more traffic that you can bring in, the better it is for branding purposes and as well as your search engine optimization purposes. Because those sites that get a lot of traffic, it does help with SEO. But on a local level, you got to get a ton of traffic, really. Because locally, most local businesses don't ever get more than maybe 30 people a day at most on their websites. So if you're getting 1,000 people a day on your website, Google may actually flag that as suspicious and have a manual person come and look at your website and see if it's real valid traffic or not. So it's just not always about traffic. And that doesn't mean that traffic in itself is bad, but you want the right traffic on your site. So same deal with SEO. If you're doing, with AdWords. If you're doing AdWords just so you can get traffic to your site, that's the wrong reason. You need to be very specific with AdWords that you want people to do a very specific thing, which means a certain service, a certain product, something that you want them to do. You want to be specific with your ads. And here's the other one that I put it in the myth because I've had people tell me after I've audited their whole AdWords campaign, well, but they told me it was working. Okay. And I'm telling you it's not. So you just got to decide.
Well, that leads right into your next point. Don't trust anyone to tell you whether or not it's working or not. You need to have a good enough handle on your own numbers to be able to tell whether it's working or not, and you can let them know this isn't working or this is really working. I'm seeing results. But if they're not going to answer your questions, if they're not going to tell you how it works, if they just want to snow you into, here's a pretty report that has a bunch of numbers and graphs and charts and everything else that are pointing at things that we think, look impressive, then but they're not giving you answers like what's behind those numbers and what it really means, then yeah, that's probably not somebody that you would want to stay with very, very long, very much longer, because it's a complicated thing, the way that it all works. But if you have somebody who eats, sleeps, and breathes it, it's like Albert Einstein said, you don't truly understand something until you can say it simply, until you can explain it simply, right? And this is somebody who understood the complexities of the universe on a pretty grand scale, but reduced that complexity down to E equals MC squared and was able to explain it in a way that made sense to people, So it really is important to have somebody who can educate you and help you understand whether or not it's really working and why that they're making the claim that it is or isn't.
And I'm so glad that Christian jumped on here. I told him this is what we were talking about today. He really is the person in our business that can explain it easier than anybody else I know. And yes, Google will take your money regardless. I like that. Regardless of what you think, Google's going to take your money. But they'll make it hurt less if you provide a quality experience to your customers. So I think that's great. Great way to put that, Christian. The other thing I do want to say real quick is, hey guys, if you're getting value out of this, if you'd give us a thumbs up, a heart, that would be great. I know that a lot of people don't know this about Facebook, but they kind of like when you have likes and loves and all that good stuff. So It helps us kind of be seen in their algorithms. So that's great. So what are the things that you need to know? Let's just talk about this.
Real quick, Linda just asked a question. What numbers,
Okay.
before we get off the numbers question, somebody that explains things, what should they be looking for if they don't work with us, or even if they do work with us? What are the numbers that matter in terms of, like, getting a good explanation for and a justification for why we're saying this works?
So I think one of the best numbers to look through is the click-through rate. You want to know, I think the first thing is when you set these ads up, you're able to set what is meaningful to you. What does a click-through rate? In other words, if I click through here and it goes and all I'm doing is website reviews, is that meaningful to you? Or if it goes to a scheduling form that we can follow through on the other side and see it's scheduled. Okay, that's meaningful. So you have to determine first and foremost with whoever does your AdWords what is meaningful. What do you want them to do? Okay, so that's number one. If you don't do that, then here we go. I'll let Christian put that up there too. But if you don't do that in the very beginning, then the conversion rate, cost for conversions, and search campaigns, none of those really mean anything, because you have to be the one that's involved getting those things set up. What is a conversion to you? And that's what I was saying before. There are a lot of companies that talk about what a conversion is. And, oh, you got X amount of conversions. And then the business owner says, well, they told me I got 25 conversions, but I don't think I've gotten a job off it yet. I can't track it to where I can see I got a job. And that's the frustration between people doing your AdWords and what you see on your side. So hopefully, Linda, that answers your question. And I actually know that you're a client, you work with Christian, so I absolutely know you know what your conversions are and what you want it to do.
Just real quick, when you're thinking about conversions, it really is a call to action. It is knowing crystal clear what it is that when somebody reads that ad, what the next step you want them to take is, and then measuring whether or not they take that step. If they take that step after reading your ad, that's a conversion, right? In simplest terms, whatever it may be. And for most service businesses, it's schedule an appointment, right? Or call our office to schedule an appointment. So, you need a way, if it's a phone call, to be able to know that it came from a Google ad, right? So a tracking number in that Google ad is great for that. But you need to know that the person who's calling you found you in a Google ad in order for that to count as a conversion. So that's the reason why tracking is important, and the reason why knowing what it is you're asking somebody to do next is important.
So here's another thing I want to explain. There's a big difference between Google AdWords and Facebook ads. And so let me explain this really quick, because I think it's real important. It's not written down, Carter, but I think this is something that needs to be discussed here. So on Google AdWords, people are actually searching for you. Okay, they are looking specifically for what you do. So when you turn your AdWords off during your season, your seasonality, then people are searching for you, but they're not finding you because you don't have AdWords on, unless you're in Google My Business and organic and all those other things. All right. So most people want to use Google AdWords to supplement things when nobody's looking for them. This is one of those things that are kind of crazy to me, because if nobody's looking for you, AdWords don't work near as good in the spring and summer as they work in the fall and winter, when people are actually looking for what you do, unless it's around things like big storms, hurricanes, where Lee is in Houston, those kind of events. Then yeah, they're going to look, because leaks, smells, all that kind of stuff that come out of their chimneys. So this is one of the things that people think that AdWords actually go out there and find people that are, kind of thinking about what it's kind of this osmosis thing. They don't work that way. If people aren't specifically looking for those keywords, which brings me to one of those things that you need to know what your targeted keywords are. Okay, you need to know when you need to target leaky chimneys. When do you need to target for dryer vents? When do you target for sweeps? Is there a time that you can target for real estate inspections? I mean, these are all those things that you need to know specifically so that when that time is that you are talking to whoever's doing your AdWords, or if you're doing it yourself, that you can figure out and make sure that you are putting those ads out when people are actually searching for what you do. The reason Facebook is different, Facebook is interrupted marketing. You're sitting there going through the Facebook scroll and you see something interesting and go, oh, and hit that, and then it takes you over. Oh, I never thought about getting my chimney swept. Huh, because I've never searched it. Oh, that's interesting. Those are the big difference between what Facebook ads do, or any social ad, actually, not just Facebook. Any social ad does, as opposed to if you're doing an ad and on search, which can be DuckDuckGo, Google, Bing, any of the search engines. So hopefully that that explains the difference between those two, and why, if you're totally relying on AdWords in the spring and summer and you're looking for chimneys, chimney services, you may not be getting a lot off of it because nobody's looking for you on AdWords specific. And that's really important. So you got to know your keywords, got to be in charge of your budget, got to know what your budget is, know how much goes to ads, how much goes to people who are managing. That's the other thing that's really, really important. A lot of times we find that there are companies that manage ads and they don't give the company they're working for the breakdown. So that company doesn't know how much the people that are managing those ads are getting and how much is going to Google. I hate that structure. I would hate it as a business owner. To me, it's much more transparent if you know exactly how much goes to the management company and how much is going to Google. So that's what I like. So Linda's just put in, it's also good for a business to track when calls come in. Yeah, there you go. And ask your customer how you heard about us. Yeah, that's great too. Thank you, Linda, for that. Appreciate that so much. You ought to be able to control when you run the ads and when you don't. It's another thing a lot of companies do. They take on a contract, 6 months, 12 months, whatever, and you can't flex that spend or flex that. I mean, they put you in and that's what they expect you to spend every single month. Well, the other thing a lot of them do is you set your campaigns up and you can't modify your campaigns. You can't modify what you're going to be advertising and going after on any given month or time. Those things are just, if you have your hands tied around your advertising, that's just not good. That's not a good thing.
Yeah. And to be fair, some AdWords managers and businesses that run AdWords for other companies are not familiar with the challenges of a seasonal business, and contractors face seasonality. There's just no way around that. So you really need to partner with somebody that gets the fact that we're going to be running certain ad sets at certain times. We're going to take advantage of opportunities when they come, like the big storm that happened on Thursday. So Friday we're going to start running ads for leaky chimneys because that's when people are looking for that, and so responding to what's going on and when, that's an important thing to make sure that you find, because if somebody just wants to set it and forget it and collect your money every month and run the same ads to the same people over and over and over again, and it works for some things. I mean, e-commerce, I mean, people always need, diapers or need, whatever, cell phones or whatever you're running ads for, but it's just not the same with seasonal businesses. And so we've got to put the right thing in front of the right people at the right time.
And I think that's another thing to bring up. Make sure whoever you're working with understands your business. I think that's huge. Just understanding the type of business you have, the seasons you have, what you do when. And if you're able to work off marketing calendars, that's another great way to do that. Because even though, we work with a lot of service companies across the U.S., but what a chimney sweep and an HVAC person does in the Northeast is totally different seasonality wise as somebody does in the Southwest. So there's so many different things that you got to know. So working off of calendars and tweaking those to the right seasonality is really, really important. And then the last thing is an absolute must. Don't work with anybody that doesn't give you a report. It doesn't, that you can't get on the phone with when you see something, that you can't have a meaningful conversation with. Um, people have, people who are in marketing, we want to think that we know everything, but the honest truth is we don't. We don't see everything that you see. So it's really, really important to have transparency and open communication so that we are, doing the things that need to happen for you. You need to work for a company, whether it's us or somebody else. You need to make sure you have that kind of relationship. If you're doing it yourself, have if you have to, Google themselves have agents that can help you from time to time. So reach out to them. We can probably get you hooked up if you do it yourself and you want to talk to an agent. Get in touch with me at taylor@sparkmarketer.com, and I'll see if I can hook you up with somebody over at Google who might be able to help you. They do have some help situations. Now, with that said, we do not do everything the way Google tells us to, because Google does make money doing this. And so some of the things that they recommend, it's like, yeah, but I don't work for you. I work for this other guy over here. So,
Yeah.
But if you're doing it yourself, they're a good place to start if you need some help. So I think that's really great. All right. Lee is asking this. Should we be running ads with our company name for a keyword? Should it be cheaper? Yes and yes. That is a very, very good thing to do. Should always be cheaper. And it's a guarantee when people are looking for you directly, they get you directly, because it's something that's really easy to do. And I would say if people in your industry, if there are companies that are in your area that you want to scab some business with, run them with their name. There's nothing wrong with that. Google says that it's perfectly fine. So, just make sure, turnabout's fair play. If you do it to them, they may turn around and do it to you. But that's all good. It's all good. So I think to kind of wrap this thing up, we're going to talk about is PPC really good for you? All right. Is it good for you? There's some questions that I think you really do have to ask.
It's like the old breakfast cereal commercials, part of a balanced breakfast. Right.
Oh, that's great. I'm going to put this up too, because Christian is on fire here, giving us some advice. It says sometimes your competitors will knowingly or unknowingly bid on your keywords, and they might steal some of the traffic. The difference is you'll pay a lot less than they will because you are the relevant business. So there you go. Great, Christian. Thanks so much for that, bud. So let's talk a little bit about what to ask yourself. Is PPC for you? I think the first thing you have to ask yourself is this: do I really understand when I should run PPC? And again, it's when people are searching in your area for what you do. So make sure in spring, summer, when they may not be searching for chimney sweeping, that you're the services that you have, whether it's chimney repair, lining, dryer vent, leaks, all those things are the things you really should be going for. So that's the first thing. So what does PPC do for you? The great thing is if people are searching for you, it can especially in locations that you may not be on the maps or may not be showing up on organic, but you want that location. It's a great way to go into a new area because you can pop up and be at the very top of the search engine, even though it's not SEO, it's SEM, search engine marketing. You can use it to get to the top of the page. Now, with that said, about 56% skip over all the PPC ads. So just know that going in. But you still can catch that 44% that are looking at those ads if you do that. We talked a little bit about this. Helps with SEO. Why is that? Well, it helps with SEO because it gets more people to your website. This is one of the reasons that I suggest you kind of keep it on year round, just a very minimal PPC campaign going on a year round basis, because there are people it will catch from time to time and they'll get over to your website. The good thing is, if it's not really working and people aren't clicking on it a lot, it's because they're not searching for it, but you don't pay for it. That's the great thing. But it is good for brand awareness. You know, if people see your name, they're seeing your name. If they happen to click on it to see what the heck is this, then they're going to see your name and go to your website. Nothing wrong with that. But you don't want to spend tons and tons of money, is what I'm saying. Just a small campaign to do that. Go ahead.
It's pretty hard. I mean, with a really dialed in landing page and ad set running to target a specific kind of customer, it's really hard to spend much money when there's nobody looking for that, right? So, I mean, It really is. It's just hard to do. You almost, the only way to spend more money is to run lousy ads that cast way too wide a net, snaring all sorts of stuff you don't want, and driving them to pages that really suck in terms of the way they relate to the ads you're running. You can spend a lot of money doing that. But yeah, I mean, when it's really targeted, why not keep it running? You're not going to pay if nobody clicks the ad, but you are going to get visibility.
And what happens, like a lot of the chimney service guys especially are just so covered up, they can't, I mean, they're scheduling out months in advance. So do you want to have a PPC campaign going on then? Well, you might, especially for those services that are big ticket items that people want to get another opinion for. So what I'm talking about is not the chimney sweeping, not the inspections, but maybe chimney repairs, the bigger jobs that you want, the chimney lining, with an ad that says, we give second opinions. I mean, there are all those things to try to get those jobs that can move you into the spring and summer of the following year. So those are some of the things to think outside the box a little bit. Think about what you're doing. I'm so busy and covered up. I don't want to put ads out on just sweeping and inspections, but what can I do? What can I put ads out that we can get business and push that business into early spring all the way into the summer and keep our guys busy? I mean, those are all some of the things that you can think about. So being creative. But the thing about any type of advertising, I say this all the time, and it's really, really important for you guys to know this. Do not do anything for less than 6 months. I don't care what it is. Put it in your budget. Stick with it for 6 months. 6 months gives you enough time to see, does it really work? 6 months also gives you enough time normally to go from one season into another. So if you're doing something for 6 months and you start in January to June and it's all about sweeping and inspections, you may not get a really good idea if that really works. But if you start in June and run it to the end of the year to where you're catching the season in that, same deal. If you're HVAC, catch it during spring and fall, whatever 6 months you do. I mean, think about when you plan to do these things. Release it and know that you've got a budget in place for at least 6 months. I've got some people that will tell you it's got to be a year. I prefer a year, but you know what? Some people don't want to do a year. But if you do less than 6 months, you're shooting yourself in the foot because you just don't have enough time.
You're not going to know if it worked or not. It's like the person that wants to lose 20 pounds and they say, well, I don't know. I dieted over the weekend, but it just didn't work.
Yeah, and I've talked a lot because this is kind of my thing with Christian.
I'd just let you, because if I was the one that talked, then we wouldn't know what we now know after listening to you. So you brought it today. That was good stuff. I just want to shout out Christian again and Tom. Tom just made a comment as well, which was on point. Yeah, we've just got a great team that really understands AdWords. They understand the mind of our customers and the kind of business that our customers run, and it really does make us sharp. I really appreciate their input today as well.
Yeah, it's really good. So Carter, I'm going to let you talk about what we're fixing to do and introduce what we're doing next week.
Well, next week we're going to talk about whether or not I'm a business that's got all the leads I can get to. In fact, I can't even get to all of them. So why do I need to market at all? Or what should I even market? That's a great question. And we want to talk about what the strategy is when you're swamped with leads and how you can get more of the business you really want and actually reduce the number of people that you don't want. And really, now is the perfect time when you're swamped to create a business that gives you a heck of a lot more of what you really, really want in your business. And so we're going to talk about that.
And so again, thank you guys very much. I want to make sure you know Carter and I are doing 2 classes at the CSIA Homecoming event, August 18th through the 20th. Christian and I are doing one on AdWords. We're really going to dig in and talk even a lot more than what we covered here. On AdWords, give examples, go through some things. It's going to be pretty exciting. And then Jonathan and I are going to talk about doing video and photos, and some of those people that, especially the ones that kind of get started on their own before they're able to really hire somebody to come in and do that on best practices. So we hope to see you there. We always love seeing everybody in person. So we always hope everybody can be there. And until then, we will see you next week. Hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. It's going to get hot here again, so we'll be sweating like crazy again by Sunday. We hope it's bright and shiny and not much humidity where you are. So we'll talk to you next week.
Bye, everyone.